Hello to everyone, welcome to this video. I hope that everyone who is watching it is doing fine. First of all, thank you for being here. My name is Jonathan Vieira and I am recording this video to talk to all of you about the TOEFL Young Student Series. Yes, this is the main subject of this video and it's a pleasure for me to be the facilitator of this important subject. I'd like to mention to all of you that I have been working here in Brazil as a consultant for the TOEFL Young Student Series, and that's why I'm here with you to present to you some important points related to the series of TOEFL tests created especially for English language young learners. I really believe that the subject of this video may be interesting to many of you since it's a very current subject that every educator should know more about, especially when working with the English language teaching learning process, mainly in a middle or in a high school context. So now it's time to present to you the objectives of this presentation. I'd like to provide to you a brief overview about the TOEFL Young Student Series, or as we call it in its abbreviated form, the TOEFL YSS. I really want to focus on the most important characteristics of this series of TOEFL tests, especially mentioning the purposes, the test design, and the test uses. The TOEFL Young Student Series consists of two kinds of TOEFL tests, the TOEFL Primary and the TOEFL Junior. And I'm going to talk about these two tests separately, okay? And as you probably already know, TOEFL tests are English language proficiency tests, and they are developed by Educational Test and Service, or in its abbreviated form, ETS, which is the world's largest independent educational organization for assessment and for research. ETS is located in Princeton in the United States, and its mission is to help advance quality and equity in education worldwide by providing fair and valid assessments and research. It is also very important to mention that ETS assessments measure a variety of skills and are designed to support learning and teaching. ETS currently develops, administers, and scores more than 50 million tests each year in more than 9,000 different locations in 180 countries. It is amazing how ETS operates, and it's a lot of work through millions of tests, as you can imagine. It's a necessary work that makes it possible to measure proficiency in English, and of course it facilitates the process of decision-making in many different situations in real life, especially academic and professional situations. Talking about decision-making, it's time to understand how ETS developed the TOEFL Young Student Series that consists, as I said before, of two tests, the TOEFL Primary and the TOEFL Junior. The TOEFL Primary test is for students between 8 and 11 years old, and it's offered in three different versions: the TOEFL Primary Reading and Listening Test, Step 1, the TOEFL Primary Reading and Listening Test, Step 2, and these two tests, it's important to mention, can be delivered on paper or digitally. And there is also the TOEFL Primary Speaking Test, which is digitally delivered. About the TOEFL Junior, it's intended for students between 11 and 18 years old. And there are two TOEFL Junior tests. The TOEFL Junior Standard Test, which can be delivered on paper or digitally. And there is the TOEFL Junior Speaking Test, which is a digital test. TOEFL Primary and TOEFL Junior tests are objective and reliable measure tools of the student's English communication skills in an academic context. Either it is a middle school context or a high school context. And these tests, the TOEFL Primary and the TOEFL Junior, cover different levels of the Common European Framework of Reference for Language, the CEFR. What is a great advantage for the students? So, after having presented the general information about the TOEFL Primary and the TOEFL Junior tests, from now on, I'd like to focus on this video on the TOEFL Primary test, and then in another video, I'll explain and focus more on the TOEFL Junior test, okay? So let's get it started by saying that the TOEFL primary test provides information about young students' communication abilities in English, and teachers and parents with this test can use the information from its score report to make decisions that will help students learn more English. And as I said before, there are 3 TOEFL primary tests. Let's review it. The TOEFL Primary Reading and Listening Test Step 1, the TOEFL Primary Reading and Listening Test Step 2, and the TOEFL Primary Speaking Test. All TOEFL tests are designed based on quality and professional research. And the TOEFL Primary tests were designed with young children in mind. The curricula from many different countries were studied by ETS, including countries in East Asia, the Middle East, Europe, and South America. ETS also conducted prototyping and pilots in various countries to determine how long the tests should be, which skill areas needed to be tested, and how to make the test interesting and motivating for young learners. At each step along the way, distinguished researchers from ETS and leaders in the field of language testing from major universities reviewed the test design. It really takes years and a lot of work and research to develop one single test. TOEFL Primary is intended for students as young as 8 years old until 11 years old, who have been learning English for about 1 year or more. As we know, students all over the world start learning English at different ages, and TOEFL Primary is accessible for a range of students of different ages. These same students are learning in different schools and at different paces. Some are studying English maybe only 1 or 2 hours a week. Other students study English every day. But what we have to keep in mind is that TOEFL Primary can be taken by any of these students, especially if they have been having contact with the English language at their schools. So, what does the TOEFL Primary do for teachers and for students especially? The TOEFL Primary test provides an overview of students' abilities as they learn English. Teachers can use the tests to monitor students' progress, to set goals for students' learning, and to place students in the appropriate level of instruction. The TOEFL Primary test also helps teachers communicate to parents about students' progress and areas for improvement. Students know exactly what they can do and what they still can't do in English after they receive their score reports. TOEFL Primary was created to give feedback to everyone related to the English language teaching learning process at high school. And this is one of the most important characteristics of the tests of the TOEFL Young Student Series. They really were created to help students understand their abilities in the process of learning the English language, and of course to help their schools and their teachers improve the strategies to teach English. TOEFL Primary test content is based on a set of communication goals. These are the same as many of the lesson goals of English curricula for young students around the world. Communication goals were developed for listening, for reading, and for speaking. And then tasks were developed to assess whether students have achieved these goals or not. Now let's talk quickly about the different versions of the TOEFL Primary test. TOEFL Primary Reading and Listening Test Step 1 is intended for students at the beginning stages of learning English. Students typically understand basic grammar structures like the simple present and recognize basic vocabulary. Students can also read basic short texts. These texts can be as simple as a single word or a single sentence. The most difficult reading tasks on Step 1 ask students to read a short paragraph. The TOEFL Primary Reading and Listening Step 1 may be a paper-based or a digital test, and in both versions, students read or listen to test passages and questions, either in a test book or on the computer. The answers can be given on a separate answer sheet if the test is a paper-based one, or on the computer when the test is being digitally taken. The test consists of all multiple choice questions. Students choose one answer from 3 options. The reading section of the test has 36 questions and 3 examples. Students have 30 minutes to complete the reading section. The listening section of the test has 36 questions and 5 example questions. Students listen to the audios of the listening section with all the test content, directions, and example questions. The listening section takes about 30 minutes. Like Step 1, the TOEFL Primary Reading and Listening Step 2 may be a paper-based or a digital test. The questions are also multiple choice. The reading section has 36 questions and students have 30 minutes to complete it. The listening section has 36 questions and 3 examples. Students listen to the audio and to the questions and have 30 minutes to do it. So, still about the TOEFL primary tests, Step 1 and Step 2, we also know that Step 1 focuses on students' abilities to read words, sentences, short groups of words, and emails or letters between friends and family. The language is about familiar topics such as home, school, and activities in general. And Step 2 is designed for students at a slightly higher level and focuses on the students' abilities to read and listen to longer texts, including stories, sets of instructions, and simple classroom lectures or academic texts. They are still appropriate for young learners, but they are more complex and have a greater range of vocabulary and grammar. Step 2 is intended for students who have acquired some communicative skills in English. Students typically understand multiple grammatical structures like the simple present, simple past, and present progressives. Students can also read longer texts of up to 250 words. And there are 7 types of texts on TOEFL primary reading section. Some texts are on Step 1, some are on Step 2, and some are on both Step 1 and Step 2. On the TOEFL primary reading section, we can find, depending on the step, academic paragraphs, sentence clues, telegraphic texts, emails, letters, and notes. Sets of directions are also included, stories, and texts to match with pictures. Now let's talk about the TOEFL primary listening section. There are also 7 text types in the listening section. In the listening section, students will be asked to listen to descriptions and to match them with pictures, listen to details in conversations, listen to messages and announcements, stories, listen to classroom lectures and discussions. So that's it about the listening section. And now let's talk about the speaking test, which is a computer-based test, or as we know, students do the text on the computer. They speak into a microphone, and the speaking test offers time in the beginning for the test taker to adjust settings and warm up before the test actually begins. The test contains 7 to 10 questions that are set within a young learner-friendly storyline. For example, the storyline that we will see today is the zoo. The whole test is only about 20 minutes long and is appropriate for students at different skill levels. Students record their responses, which are captured digitally and sent back to ETS. The test is then scored by trained ETS raters using scoring guides. TOEFL primary speaking test has 6 types of questions, and when the students are answering them, they have to show the ability to make descriptions, to give directions, to express themselves about what they heard, to ask questions, to make requests, and to make narrations. Great, That was my short explanation about the 3 available versions of the TOEFL primary test. Of course, there is much more to present and discuss, especially with the teachers, thinking about the format of the questions, the format of the test, and how to prepare the students for that format. But we can continue discussing it on another video, in another opportunity, especially because we still have to talk about the TOEFL Junior test. So see you on the next video. Thank you for being here and watching this content. I hope it was useful and interesting for you all. Thank you and see you on the next video.